You're live.
This is Senate Transportation. It is Wednesday, the 25th, and we are here to talk about the miscellaneous DMV bill and hopefully get it out. Sir.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Damien Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. This morning, the draft of the miscellaneous DMV bill you have in front of you has highlighting where there have been changes since the last draft that was edited. Some of these we went through yesterday, so I'm just going to sweep through the changes quickly, answer questions, and then we can move on to discussion about whether there are any further changes that need to be made, etc. So the first change is in section 7. It's on page 12. And this is the change we discussed yesterday, when the funds are not promptly paid as required by the commissioner, and this gives flexibility to allow a term for repayment. The next change is down on page
15.
15, yes, section 11.
Before we move on to it, I would just say to the department that if you do change your policy and it's not 30 days, it would be nice if you let us know.
Yes. So section 11, although the whole section was not highlighted, is actually a new section. This is adjusting the definition of title for the titles for snowmobiles, vessels, and all-terrain vehicles. The language was never updated when the chapter was expanded from just vessels to include snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles. This makes that change, and the language is consistent with the other instances in the chapter. The next section, we're just renumbering the next few sections. So I'm going to skip ahead until the next substantive change, which is in section 17, bottom of page 21. We looked at this yesterday. This is the gross vehicle weight rating language. So that's the definition of gross vehicle weight rating. And then in section 18 on page 22 is the first of 3 instances where instead of a shipping weight of up to 10,099 pounds, we're saying a gross vehicle weight rating of up to 13,500 pounds. We also make that change on page 23 and on page 24.
I asked this today, I can't remember the answer. Where did both the numbers, the 10,099 and the 13,500?
Those were proposed by the department. The 13,500 was a compromise, as I understand, between the department and the Dealers Association and the Truck and Bus Association. So it captures some medium duty vehicles, class 3 trucks, is that correct? But not all.
We're referencing some other regulation or federal designation, or it was just a number of looking at the trucks and saying, like, these trucks are over, these trucks are under, this is a good number.
My understanding it's the latter, but
Matt Russo, Deputy Commissioner for DMV. Class 3 vehicles go up to about 14,000. And so we lowered it to about 500 pounds just to give them some wiggle room for that class.
So to be considered a class 3 vehicle, you can't go over 14.
I believe it's 14.
yeah.
And is that the same with the 10,099? Was that?
Yeah, that one's been in there for a while. I'm not sure where that
You don't know where
started.
the connection
Yeah.
is.
10,000 are that's a common number in our statutes for pleasure cars and for light vehicles, that it repeats throughout Title
Right.
23.
Thank you.
10,099 is because if you remember last year, we had this truck registration language where it says shall include the next hundredweight. That's where that 99 comes from. And so it's, at some point there was that language was adopted, I assume, to deal with the fact that cars were not always right on the weight that was specified. And so if you were 12 pounds over, they didn't want to charge you for the
Is
next
there
class.
a legal definition of that weight, like class 1 to class 2 pleasure cars?
So the federal the federal theft weight classes are set out in federal rules. Light duty is typically class 1 and 2, less than 10,000 pounds. Medium duty is between 10,000 and 26,000 pounds, which is classes 3 through 6. So class 3 up to 14, class 4, 5, and 6 fill in the remaining gaps, and then heavy duty is over
Class
26,000.
1 and 2 under 10. And
Yes.
We added that 99 just for the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So can, what we'll need in this is just practical example about this. To be able to explain it on the floor. And, functionally, and I like this in right, functionally, will this, does this broaden anything? Which I don't think it does. The intention here is not to broaden anything, but a statement talking about this does not broaden and functionally, this is what it does. And it would be nice to have from the department a statement. This is really designed for clarity for people that are out there. This is not about changing policy. This is about clarity. Go ahead.
So thank you. It's just, we're using two different types of measurements in these conversations, and we just have to be careful because the weight of a vehicle is one thing. But then the ability of a vehicle to have additional weight is another thing. So I just think we need to be really careful because this used to be the actual weight of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be the capacity of the vehicle. So I just think we need to say that every time.
Yeah, how many states are using capacity of the vehicle and not?
For a max tax.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure California is the only one that has a max tax. That's at 26,000.
Okay.
I'm not sure of any other states that have a max tax for pleasure vehicles.
it would take me some time to
Okay.
pull that together.
Well, the pleasure vehicles are just their weight. It's not their capacity.
Right, I mean, max tax beyond pleasure vehicles, anything from
Okay.
go ahead.
And it's old language, but other than a farm truck is in here because they don't pay any tax.
Right, so if you,
This tax proposed section is the.
yeah,
Purchase and use tax.
that's correct. So this is the purchase and use tax. So you're excluding the farm trucks from paying the full tax. Yeah.
Right. Or anything.
Good question.
Correct.
They do pay tax
So then.
unless they're a 501c and they're pretty sure that that's purchase and use taxes.
Yeah.
Farm truck.
Yeah,
What is it? So what are they, why are they other than farm truck?
well, so if you look at the next paragraph, it says for any other motor vehicle. So in other words, anything that's not called out in that list,
Okay, so farm trucks.
you pay tax at the rate, but you're subject to the max tax account.
Okay, thank you.
Um. Okay,
It would also be good for a prop when we get here, the certificate that people, if we had a sample certificate and a snapshot of the door of the car. So then I can, or whoever has that section, when we get there, can,
yeah, if you look inside your own car, very likely it's gonna say gross vehicle weight rating. Somewhere near the top of the sticker, and then in the rows where it says the tire pressures, it will also have an axle weight rating. So I've now been looking since we did this, and so far on all of the cars that I've looked at, you've had something along those lines in there. So you could even use your own vehicle as a prop for this.
Well, whoever reports this section will, it would be nice to have a prop to be able to show, because for me, the key here is we're now moving to a number that is solid on the door, not having somebody walk up and go, we might be this in the future. You've got a number now,
Yeah.
and it's stamped on your car and you can't play with it.
You also don't need to worry about scale calibration.
Yeah.
For this one. I mean, you imagine 1 or 2% on 10,000 pounds.
Yep, go ahead.
Can you remind me if you know when we set the 2486 as the max tax? Like which
I do not know when that was set. I can look back in the green books.
That was it last year, 2 years ago.
Was it? Okay.
Oh, no. Did you,
It would be helpful if we knew that.
like, did we increase it for you?
We increased it to 2486 or 68.
When we redid the registration fees or something?
Yes. I think that was the same.
I hadn't even got that far. I think.
Well, I don't want this.
Senator White, do you mind going in the cabinet and grabbing me Title 32? I can tell you exactly when they set that. Assuming, of course, that it has its pocket.
That's our law letter.
There's the box that across the street. I'm nowhere near. It's just 0.51.
But it
It'll be a
should have
little-
a pocket part in the back. It may not, but. Yeah,
Well,
It looks out. Yeah, because you said 2 years ago.
yeah.
When the fees increased, so.
Yeah, so I can say at least it was since 2021.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have the pocket part in this guy. But we know that this was last republished in 2021. And at that point it was 2075. So it's in the last 5 years.
okay. Probably was that one.
Yeah. So then I can get you an exact date.
Okay.
Thank
See,
you,
you
Senator.
probably did it in here.
Well, yeah, I was thinking we might have done it when we did all the registration fees that year, which I think was 23.
But the cap had existed, maybe the amount had changed over time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's where it got raised. 2486 from 10.
Okay,
All right, the next change is in, this is the section 20 now. This is commercial driver's licenses. We went over this yesterday. This is clarifying, getting rid of the weather-related emergency language and clarifying that an emergency is a situation, condition, or event that involves significant, imminent, or ongoing risk to public health and safety, infrastructure, or property. The next substantive changes in here are in section 23. This is clarifying that it's a hunting or fishing license, not a hunting or fishing permit. After that, the next substantive change.
was that you got the correct business?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Great.
Great.
Excitement for the week.
I do want to highlight that on section 26 is the inspection manual update. I don't know if you want to make any changes to that following last night's public hearing. Do you want to hold discussion on that until after I finish the walkthrough, or do you
Why
want
don't
to?
we
discuss it
go
now?
back to this one?
Okay. And then sections 27, 28, and 29 are the limited use specialty vehicles. I did email the language to the Agency of Natural Resources yesterday. I did not hear back. I don't know if Megan received any written testimony from them.
Why?
And then, section 30 is, old new language that's been added back in. So rather than renumbering everything, I added the license plate language back at the end. So this takes the license plate language from before, with the new language here that provides that numerals and letters on number plates shall not be colored, tinted, or changed in any manner. And then I've updated the language in C based on the committee discussion to say a person shall not cover or obscure any numerals or letters on a number plate with any material or substance. So this would still allow people to have the little border that goes around the outside as long as it's not covering any letters or numbers on the plate. So it can't be a particularly thick border, because there are, Vermont and other things around the edge, but it would allow some border, but it would not allow any material or substance over that. And I looked at a number of other states. Some states call out the type of material or translucent or opaque. Based on the committee's discussion, it seemed like just shall not cover or obscure made the most sense. And it's also important here that this applies to a person doing it. So the language already says that plates shall be kept entirely unobscured. It's in winter, we all know that that's difficult to do. So this language here is not going to change that, but it's also making clear that a person shall not intentionally put anything over that.
So I had an interesting example driving in yesterday where I wonder if this would be that this is a license plate that looks like it was like a Maryland plate, and they colored the plate green, but they didn't color the numbers. So we like that. So if you look at this photo, would that be
Oh, wow.
like they didn't cover the numbers,
Oh,
but they made it look like a
Vermont.
Vermont plate?
So
That's interesting. Why would,
I don't know.
but I guess it could, you're obscuring what if someone got pulled over? And
well, so that would seem to be a loophole.
Creative.
People do.
Weirdest things.
yeah, I know, that's what makes.
I saw a black one too.
Yeah.
This one I was
Just like a Vermont plate.
This is
Well,
great.
yeah, are you attempting to, are they trying to evade the law because their Maryland plate is not good and they would want someone to look and see, think it's a Vermont place, or are they being cute?
Yeah.
And
it
it's
is.
a Vermont,
Yeah.
like,
So-
you know.
If your wish is to address that,
Well, I
I
guess
might
it's- as
suggest
long
that-
as it's registered and then and you could read the numbers. But I don't know when law enforcement sends in a number, they need to know the state. Like just sending a
you
number
have
in.
multiple states with those numbers. So
I think we had good language here. I don't want to throw
You-
a wrench into it, but
you could say, a person shall not color, tint, or change in any manner from its appearance at the time the plate was issued. Shall not color, tint, or change in any manner a number plate from its appearance at the time the plate was issued, or something like that.
right, it's not just in letters and numbers, but the whole plate.
Right,
Not- Right.
so we could, but we want to finish this now, right? So we should.
I mean, I can
Or we
go
can,
up on the screen and show you language and you can give me thumbs up or thumbs
Yeah.
down.
or we can let the House know and suggest that they think about this.
They're gonna ask for a conference meeting on this. If we got the language in our pocket, we can say,
Ah.
Oh,
As long as they change this section, so that.
well, she doesn't have to change this section. You can,
Yeah.
we can get a conference if they do a strike call or anything like that, which they're liable to do.
Okay,
They
So-
can't help themselves.
I'm okay with that.
Leave it now, for now.
Leave it for now and we'll come back to
Okay.
as long as, he remembers.
Well,
Because I'll forget.
selective memory.
Yeah,
I
you
mean-
can send that to them.
another thing is, the department, if they want that change, can always ask the House to make it.
Yeah.
And then you can agree to that change.
This
and trade
language
that
is
for
better
something.
than it was.
It's kind of fun to see what people do with their number plates. So, all right, let's see. The next substantive change is just to the effective dates section. It's now called effective dates. We have it was just effective date, singular versus plural. And then, the only new dates here are the dates for the non-driver IDs, and detained individuals' licenses and learner's permit.
Yep.
Any questions, or I guess
Let's go back to the, and talk us through, at section 26.
sure. So currently, section 26 provides that the Department of Motor Vehicles shall amend the inspection manual to increase its focus on conditions that constitute genuine safety issues, eliminate outdated procedures, and provide clear, consistent guidance for both inspection mechanics and members of the public. It then provides that the amendments to the inspection manual shall specifically address conditions of the following vehicle components and systems that would warrant failure of an inspection or that a vehicle owner should be advised of. And then it lists tires, power steering, suspension, brake rotors, lighting, electrical systems and components, windshield, windows, windshield wipers, vehicle body, and in the discretion of the commissioner, any other vehicle systems or components. Include the elimination of the on-highway road test for brakes and the headlamp aiming test, and provide additional visual guidance regarding when certain conditions warrant failure of an inspection. It then requires that on or before August 1st, 2026, the department would file with the Secretary of State proposed amendments to the inspection manual necessary to implement the provisions of this section, and adopt emergency rules to implement the provisions of this section while permanent rules are pending. And then which we would then deem to have met the standard for emergency rulemaking. There were some questions earlier about whether the language in beginning on line 13 of page 35 would require the department to amend the sections addressing those. And I think there is, I think as it's written, it leaves leeway for the department to argue that if, for example, one of their proposed changes that they showed us the other day is not, ultimately they decide not to move forward with it based on the feedback that they get from inspection mechanics, the general public, etc. I think this leaves them the leeway to do that because there is some judgment in what are the conditions of these components and systems that would warrant failure of an inspection or that a vehicle owner should be advised of. So they're reviewing that. There are other ways that you could word this. You could say the amendments to the inspection manual, the proposed amendments, or you could also say that in drafting the amendments to the inspection manual, the commissioner shall specifically consider what conditions of the following vehicle components and systems would warrant failure, or that a vehicle owner should be advised of. And I'm stumbling over my words because I'm a little sleepy this morning, but I think there are other ways to word it. That said, I think as it's worded, there is some wiggle room here, and the commissioner is not required to follow the draft that was presented to this committee if based on further testimony they find that something that they proposed isn't going to work out because of something that they hadn't considered.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that's helpful because I think we heard last night in the public hearing, just like one thing that resonated with me was the tires piece. So I do appreciate that if you did get from the DMV perspective, a lot of stakeholder engagement that said, actually, here's where it would be a safety issue for tires, for example. It sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, they could potentially alter those recommendations. So I see it as a positive the way you've worded it, but it also makes me a little hesitant because I would be nervous that then they don't have to do any of this, or that there's a good reason to not do any of the changes. So I guess I like the flexibility for them, but I do hope that it actually doesn't turn into a long process where we ultimately don't see substantial changes, because at the end of the day, I think we heard loud and clear that the general public in Vermont, I think, does not like how stringent it currently exists, and that at the very least we need to address this year. So that's my, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So I think there is direction here that the department needs to go through these different systems. They need to review whether the components and systems, there are conditions of the components and systems that clearly warrant a failure, and conditions that a vehicle owner should only be advised of. It does not specifically require that they change everything in there. I think that you do have language above, though, that says that they shall amend the inspection manual to increase its focus on conditions that constitute genuine safety issues, eliminate outdated procedures, and provide clear, consistent guidance. So I think the question when it comes back to LCAR is, were they compliant with the intent that the inspection manual be simplified and focused more on genuine safety issues? And then within that, if they did have to exercise some discretion and leeway in there, is it still consistent with that overall drive at the top?
So,
So
it is, and this is for you. If it did change the direction of what you showed us, how would this committee know it?
We would let you know. I can assure you that we're not planning to not do anything, or if there's any changes to what we propose, we will let the committee know.
Would you have any problem saying that in here?
No problems.
Is there a way to
yep.
have them report to the two transportation committees if they decided not to move ahead, or they made substantive changes in what they've showed us?
Yes. So there are a couple of things that will, couple of different points here. So one is when they file with LCAR, you as the chair of this committee, and then your counterpart in the House will get copies.
I'd rather it go to the whole committee and I would rather know that they're going to change that before I get the draft from LCAR.
So what you can provide in here is that at the time of filing the proposed rules, and at the time of filing the final proposed rule with LCAR, that they submit a report to this committee outlining the changes that they will be making. And then any changes between the proposed rule and the final proposed rule.
Okay. That way everybody is on the same page and knows exactly where we're coming from.
All right, so I'm going to add a subsection C. And I think that this wouldn't require them to provide you with a copy of the entire rule filing, which contains a lot of extra pages that are more dealing with the process, but they could give you, for example, an annotated copy and a summary, and probably when they do their final proposed rule, there's something called a responsiveness summary, where they summarize the comments they got and whether they made a change or not in response to each comment.
And then the commission.
my feeling is that we should get rid of the safety inspection. I'm still not convinced it's unbalanced, good for Vermont, the way it's been done. So, but I'm willing to go along with this language in the hopes that it drastically improves the experience Vermonters have in the inspection process, which means a lot less failures and a lot clarity, so that when an inspection station says it fails, it's clear. And in that regard, when I looked at this language again, I wondered if it could be stronger. If that what our intent is, that we basically want people to pass the inspection more. I don't know how to say that exactly, but when it says increase the manual's focus on vehicle conditions that can constitute genuine safety issues, I could make an argument right now that all the ones there are genuine safety issues. That's why they're in there. Yeah, I could also argue for some of them why they aren't, but I think they're all in there because there is a safety component to them all the ones that are in there. So I feel like if I was an LCAR and they just said, yeah, these are the genuine safety issues, I don't know if there's a way to be more clear that we want it to be, you know, easier to pass, basically, without just saying easier to pass. Like, I don't know if genuine safety issues is strong enough language to make it clear. Because you could, you know, as we just said, they could not change any of these things. And it could just still be just as hard to pass the inspection, but they say, well, there's a genuine safety issue, for example, for tires, or if the high beam, like we heard last night, 2 people had failed because of the high beam light. Well, that's a genuine safety issue, because if you're shining your high beams on somebody, they might not be able to see the road. So I think you could make an argument for all of them why it's a safety issue. So I don't know if there's a way to make it clear that, if there's a better word other than genuine for safety, like imminent danger or something, or I don't know. I'm also, I don't know if we can't come up with the language, because I know we want to get this out, but also saying that for the benefit of the DMV that's here, that if the changes aren't made, that aren't really kind of noticeable difference in the people's experience getting their car inspected, the efforts to get rid of the inspection entirely will just amplify. So I hope they take that seriously. And I think from the testimony they will, but you never know what happens between work, you know, that experience, in my view, of what we say today and then what happens by the time we come back. So that's my concern.
Go ahead, Pat.
Just a question maybe for DMV.
And then the commissioners on too. So
Yes, okay. Where have you started the process of tweaking the manual, or is this list that we have just the first step?
We've spoken to our vendor.
You have
We've worked with we're working with our vendor right now.
already? Do you have ideas for each of these categories?
Yes.
Do we have those?
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought I saw them somewhere.
that's the, yeah.
Last question is, who did you work with? Did you work with folks in the field also, or was it just in-house?
We worked out with inspection stations.
Okay, good.
Commissioner.
Good morning, Andrew Collier, excuse me, Commissioner DMV for the record. I just want to know the concern that we had. It's not that we're planning on making any real substantive changes to this, but anytime I see the word shall, I just don't want to run afoul of the legislative intent. And that was our concern, is if there's one item that maybe comes up in the process that we just have to alter, trust me, it's not the rust on rotors that will be in there. But if there's some item that pops up, because I believe suspension, we just had one item in there, you know, if that ends up popping out, are we going to run afoul? That was my one concern when I brought this up with Damien. As Deputy Commissioner mentioned, we've already started work with a vendor to get this ball rolling as this works through the legislative process. So we are committed to making these changes. It was just that word shall. If when we do our public outside the emergency rulemaking, when we do the actual rulemaking portion, and if there's feedback or something we're seeing, because we're going to have this implemented already on the emergency rule, if we have to make a change, are we going to run afoul of the intent on this list? So that was my concern. That's what I expressed to Damien. If that's not the case, and we're fine with that language, but that was just our concern on that.
Wendy?
Thank you. So something I heard a lot last night was that the issues are as much about unethical inspection stations. And I think that's more that's not the same everywhere in the state. Of course, everyone wants to save money in some way, but I'm not hearing as much from my folks. Maybe now I will, but about difficulties or not appreciating the actual inspection itself. It's I think when people have bad situations and someone takes advantage of them and says you have to get this fixed, and then you'll get it okay. And so I don't see anything about increased enforcement in here. And I don't know what kind of enforcement we've had in the past. If there's a mechanism for the customers to go to V-Trans and say, I had a bad situation, or what I would hope that we start doing just generally is have easy comment forms that can be online, where you just say, this was good, this was bad, that kind of thing, so that you can evaluate that. And I would hope that V-Trans would take away the ability to do inspections if there is a bad actor. I don't even know if to do that, but we haven't talked about enforcement, and it seems to me that enforcement would be very helpful, and that's not in this plan. So that's one item. And I know I'm bringing this out late, but I just learned about it last night, so it's very helpful.
Do we inspect inspection stations?
If I may, real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what we're trying to do is take away that ambiguity. Inspection stations, because of that ambiguity, they're afraid that they're going to mess up. And so they want to make sure that they're checking every single thing. And it's all about how they're interpreting that inspection manual. And so our plan to remove that ambiguity is going to make it very black and white on what passes and what doesn't. And I think that will assist people with the issues of not passing inspection or having a tough inspection station in the future.
But it does sound like some inspection stations are not ethical.
I've heard that.
So do you do anything about that?
We do. Every inspection station has an inspector that will work with them, investigate, audit.
So have you taken away the
There's a process.
inspection availability?
There's a process that they have to go through in order to be shut down. But there's also warnings, education. They can be cited.
Has anyone been shut down in the last 5 years?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Pat?
Well, there is another avenue that we talked about yesterday in the Attorney General's office, the CAT program, Consumer Protection. And I think we heard there were some motor vehicle complaints there, so they handle real egregious cases.
I think the number one complaint that comes in
Was motor vehicle.
was motor vehicles into the Attorney General.
That encompasses car sales, car dealers, or, everything.
Yeah.
But, the second question I had was for DMV, and it just popped into my head. When your initial inspection fails, and maybe because the guy took his job a little too seriously and, went too far in the inspection, you can't get a second opinion. Correct. Right. You go down the street and you're already in the system has failed. And is there I don't know, an avenue for seeking a second opinion? Like, when you go to the doctor to somebody, you want to say, hey, I don't quite trust that. I'm going to go see another doctor. what do we do about that when a guy fails?
So I will say, we have instances where people will contact us, reporting my vehicle failed, it shouldn't fail. And our enforcement team will go out and visit that person and review the vehicle with them, and see what they're seeing and see what the inspection station did. In cases where the work has already been performed, we'll still do an investigation, but we don't have that evidence, if you will, because it's already, the brakes are gone or something like that. So it's those after the fact ones that are challenging. But we do have cases people will call us, and our enforcement team will, one of the inspectors will go out and look at the car and see what and go through it with the customer or the Vermonter, and see if it was failed erroneously, or if it was properly inspected.
Okay, and does, if they were failed erroneously, do they get a certificate or something from that inspector that says that they can take to the next inspection station?
I'm not sure of the operational side of it, but if they're able to work with them, we'll get them back into the inspector will work with the inspection station.
Okay.
Get them.
So I thought we had testimony of people had gone to other people and got it approved. So it's the case that once you're failed, you can't get another garage to pass the vehicle? I thought if you went to one place and they said like, no, you have too much rust on your rotors, and you're like, that's a surface rust, I'm just gonna drive around the block and go to this other place. They can't pass you and say like, if they can't pass you at all, or could they pass you if they say, yeah.
We'll get the deputy for this one, because I thought you could go to a different location as well.
I was under the impression you could too, and I heard last night that somebody said that they weren't able to, so.
Yeah.
I think
Well, that was the whole premise for the pass.
Yeah, that was Deborah DeYoung
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. from St. John's. Right?
You couldn't inspection shop.
So.
Yeah,
Once you're in the system, it's failed. You're in the next guy's system too. And it's,
But the next person could pass you, say that they did some work, like, that's the question, like, what do they need? You don't have to, you go back to the same one, you might have to pay for another inspection,
yeah,
but I thought you could, I thought we've had testimony of an example of these unethical.
Yeah.
Inspection stations where they go to inspection stations, say like, oh, you can't pass, and then they don't buy it, so then they do shop around and get it passed somewhere else. Like, I don't know if the beacon or whatever it's called, the tablet, the AVIP system does prevent somebody from getting an inspection.
I mean, you have to eventually get it inspected somewhere, so I can't imagine, but I think we have to look into it. I can get you an answer.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we've heard it contradictory. I've never tried it myself, but I've heard it both ways.
I have a different question.
go ahead.
On the first page, line 17, where we say identify specific actions that are necessary to ensure that if possible, Vermont remains in compliance with the requirements of the Clean Air Act. I don't like that if possible.
For instance,
Line 17,
it's on what page?
1.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's 211.
Yeah, isn't that what we're talking about?
No,
No, we're talking about what's on us 326.
this one, I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll get to that.
and I think for the commissioner's comment about the shall, I think the first shall in the requirement is okay, but the shall on number 2, I could see a read where we have to do room S1 through whatever that is, 11. But I think just slight change on that wording could say like such as these, and let them do these and or others. Unless we want to be specific about these, like, yeah, because if for some reason they look at suspension and decide that the existing suspension section fine. But I don't know, maybe they could still meet the shall by just saying or that a vehicle owner should be advised of, so. Maybe they just, the amendment could be small, but some of these sections just don't meet the shall. And then also, so
I was gonna say, I agree. Is this like a change we can track and like look at or?
I plan on, we've got 2 hours between now and
Okay.
lunch. So if we have changes, I'm gonna have him come back in a half an hour, whatever it takes to get us clean. Good.
and I don't know if Ledge Council has any suggestions or B&B on how to strengthen the first paragraph A1,
Hold on.
make our intent clear. So that if there's a disagreement about what we were kind of agreeing to with D&B when it gets the L card, that if there's some words on the page that we could go to. And then Chair, I also have this language about the motorcycle mufflers.
I have notes here on both issues you raised, whether or not you wanted to talk about this.
Okay.
Okay, give me 2 seconds to catch up. I just drafted your reporting language,
Oh.
so. I know you guys are on a limited time schedule here.
Well, we got till noon and you can, if you need to have a little time to correct this, it isn't that much, but
All right. So we're looking at,
can I ask? Why is this August 1st?
so August 1st is, I selected that date based on typically this bill gets signed by the governor sometime in the middle of June. So even though we adjourn in the middle of May, it takes time for the bills to go over. In an ideal world, this could be signed before the end of May, but oftentimes it's not till the middle of June. The effective date is July 1st. That gives 30 days roughly, or 31 days for them to go through the process of filing the rules and to prepare the filing. So that's why it was August 1st.
For kindness.
What's your timetable in the department? When will you be done with the vendor?
The vendor will said they'll have our hard date for us on Friday or Monday of next week. So we're hoping since we got started, they have the developers getting started with our list that we can hit this, but we won't know until Friday or Monday at the latest their exact date that they could make the change.
Okay,
And we're happy to bring that up with the house if that date needs to vary just a little bit, and keep the August 1st for right now.
I'm sure the House is going to want this language exactly the way we passed it out of this committee.
They will see the wisdom of the Senate.
You're gonna keep using that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you
I'm caught up. So,
caught up with the draft? Can you
so my
post the draft?
yes. Let me log into the meeting. So my understanding is that the other items that we've got the report here, but then there is discussion about clarifying the intent language at the beginning potentially. And then there's also Senator Perchlik's potential amendment, which would be a new section.
And there's two parts of the section 26 that we might, one is that what the commissioner brought up of that number 2 shall. Because there way to clarify that if there was one of these ruminants that they didn't want, found out that they didn't want to include in the amendment, that they could. Is it enough that it says should be advised of? I don't know if there's a way to address that. I thought the commission made a good point on that second shall that might hamper them a little bit in the process of the rulemaking. And then, and then it's in the first place. I just don't feel it's strong enough, at least for me, from somebody that thinks we could get rid of safety inspections altogether, that this is going to make this process better for Vermonters. It could, and I think what I've heard from the DMV leads me to believe that it will be, but I'd like to have clear language other than genuine safety issues.
I suggest
Flush.
immediate.
Hmm.
Constitute an immediate safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps.
Well,
Go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to think through Senator Perch, like how you could strengthen it, and I feel like it's the concern that I have is less people passing or failing at a certain percentage, but more that it is a financial burden specifically on low and moderate income folks. So I don't know if there's a way to characterize that as well. Because I know that we're saying safety inspections, but I do think there is like a bit of intent language almost. I know that we don't necessarily love intent language, but it does feel
Yeah.
like we're trying to make a statement of, we don't want this to be an undue burden.
So if I may, when it comes to rulemaking, we love intent
Oh.
language. And I'm putting on my hat as the former counsel for Elcar. Intent language helps Elcar immensely to determine whether the rule is consistent with legislative intent,
Because
which
that's
is one
their
of
main
the things
role,
that they're charged with. And so in this case, what you may want to do is say the Department of Motor Vehicles shall amend the inspection manual, etc., and then say add a new subdivision 2, saying that it is the intent of the General Assembly that the amendments to the inspection manual made pursuant to this section shall, and then
Have an undue burden on folks or.
so you can,
Or have the immediate safety.
shall limit failing conditions to immediate vehicle conditions that constitute an immediate safety concern, and for vehicle conditions that do not constitute an immediate safety concern shall change those to advisory conditions or something like that. And then you would change what is currently 2 and would then become 3 to say something to the effect of, in preparing the amendments pursuant to this section, the commissioner shall specifically examine the provisions in the inspection manual relating to the following vehicle components and systems to determine whether any of the, whether revisions are necessary to be consistent with the intent of the legislature set forth in subdivision 2.
And it wouldn't limit them to those lists, I think.
No, and then there's any other vehicle components and systems.
Right.
So you can express your intent, and then the one thing I would say is that immediate safety concern, that is to some extent subjective.
Yeah.
So you may want to say in the judgment, right? So you may say that in the judgment of or as determined by the commissioner, constitute an immediate safety concern, just to be clear that, the legislative intent is not what I think is an immediate safety concern or not, with my complete lack of understanding about, vehicle systems and so forth. But it's what the, folks at the department would consider, because that'll to some extent insulate it from judgment argument where someone can submit comments and say, well, I drove my vehicle with that, problem for months, and it didn't fail for me.
I,
So, I don't know, and, that's just something that,
If you could draft that language you just said for A1 and a new sub 2.
that's right, we, draft the language in front of what else? I just have to say, and this is off the subject, but not off the subject. And I'm very interested in, once you're in the system, if you can go to somebody else to get an inspection. What I hear constantly is people go to a dealership. The dealership uses all brand new parts. So when you get something fixed that is related, they start from the very beginning with all brand new parts. If you take it to your local person in your community, they quite frequently will zero in on the piece that is not working. And they don't buy all the new parts that the dealership would, and there's usually a pretty large price difference. And I've heard a number of people say, well, because I'm unsophisticated and I went to the dealer, they overcharged me. And that in comes some of the conflict there. I would hate to see somebody that is trying, that doesn't have the money, that's trying to be economical. They end up going to a place and they face that situation and then not being able to go to someplace else where they zeroed in on something. And
Yeah, can I respond to that?
yeah,
So you all, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, but I would think that the department has a lot of data, right? Because the inspection folks put information in, and I'm sure. So I guess what I'm asking is, could you do a report on dealers versus independents and see what the trends are? Because I think that would be helpful.
You mean the number of fails?
And the fails and the amount of the repairs that happen after. I don't know if you would know
in the
that.
case I get, it's just anecdotal that it happened to be a dealer, but that's what I hear.
But and we heard that last night too.
Yep. Go ahead.
Well, I would just say, I think we're getting into the debate about like OEM parts versus aftermarket parts, and that's like a whole
Different.
giant can of worms, and it's largely dependent on your insurance and what they're allowing or demanding even of the person. So I don't necessarily think it's like a dealer versus a other garage.
And that's what I'm just saying anecdotally, that's,
Well,
and I absolutely get what.
But I'll just say, there is a bill that we have discussed in the past, and there was a report that was required by the Agency of Administration related to insurance coverage. And one of the questions was about aftermarket parts. That study has been delayed they didn't complete it when they were supposed to last year when it was requested, and it's still not complete now. So there is information on this that we had already requested one session ago that we have not received. And I respect that there was someone out who was supposed to be doing that report, but it would be nice, because I think these questions continue to come up, because the difference in cost of repairs is very shocking. And most Vermonters don't have time to go to 6 different people or even have 6 different options. So
But
you're getting on a very important piece. So.
But I am interested if somebody gets in the system and they start with one, if they can't go to another, that I haven't ever thought about that. All right.
But we're still considered fail.
So do you have everything you need, Damien, to move ahead with this?
Yes.
Do we have anything else we'd like to add to the draft?
Yes, I just want to have the open, transparent conversation, because we're about to talk about S211 and we're on inspections. So my understanding is it's not the will of the committee to include S211, even the draft that we have from the chair, in the DMV bill. So I'm gonna make my final pitch on why I do think we maybe should include it in the DMV bill. Because it sounds like maybe folks aren't fully on board with that, but I'm okay with that. I think it would be good to have it be in the DMV bill to complement the work that we already have around inspections in this bill. And I think it would send a message to the House potentially if we pass S211 separately, not in the DMV bill, that it's kind of an afterthought or something that we're not interested in. If that's the will of the committee, that's fine. And I respect if we want to pass it as a separate bill or not pass it at all. That's again, not my decision, but I do think it sends the strongest message if we do want to move forward with this concept to include it in the DMV bill. So I just wanted to say that so I could reflect. Yeah.
I'm gonna let the committee comment and then we'll go to the. Any comments from?
I'm willing to listen to more of this, but I don't want to see it in the DMV bill because I think it's very contentious and I think we've got more work to do on it. So I wouldn't mind talking about it further in another forum, like a standalone bill in here. It worries me. I'd like to get this section here on amendments, to the manual, a chance to play out.
Yeah, no, I don't know, but I was supporting getting rid of it. So going to every other year sort of supports that, but it doesn't kind of fix the problem. So I'm hoping that this will fix the problem. If not, we'll come back to that. But I'm concerned with every other on how we're dealing with AMBA and air emissions. Like it seems like those are still unknown. So if those could be figured out, so I kind of like the idea of passing it and just getting those things. Yeah, that was worked on. That's part of that. So it keeps that discussion alive. Yeah, so I think it's a good proposal.
I like the language that's already in the DMV bill to address this, and especially with NBUF. That is such an important program that I don't want to do anything that could make it not happen. And if the cost of doing it is much more expensive, I think that's going to be an issue. I'm happy to keep talking about it. And I think having it in a separate bill still shows that we care about it and we want consumers to have a good experience. But I'd also like to hear from insurance companies. Insurance companies have a lot of good data and that's their world. So if we can talk to them, they might have even suggestions.
Did you?
I just wanted to clarify that you can go to a different inspection station and pass your vehicle.
Perfect. That's good. Good.
I don't know if everybody knows that. Because I talked to, I've done a little bit of
There seems
homework.
to be contrary.
Yeah, and I've talked to inspection stations. And a couple of them have said, well, this guy showed up and he was already in the system, has failed.
Right.
So he's not gonna pass that same vehicle that a guy down the street can.
If they look at it and they decide that it should pass.
They can override that fail thing.
Yep.
Whatever it is. then it's fine.
Maybe you can send out a note.
Yeah, we can clarify with inspection stations.
Yeah.
For sure.
At this point, I think we're pretty close. What? You have one more thing to add?
Well, I don't know if you want to, about the mufflers.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the mufflers, we kept when it passed the noise bill last year. The same committee passed S66, which had some noise parts in it. One of those was about a motorcycle stand. So they even drafted language. I still have the draft version. I don't know if it's come back from.
I have a clean version too. I think committee wants to.
It's pretty simple. It just says that that a motorcycle can't be operated if it's manufactured after 1985, December 31st, 1985, that is not labeled in compliance with this federal regulation. That meets the federal regulation, which they know there's a lot of stamp on it. And then there's does not apply to motorcycle racing. Okay, so there's some exemptions. So if you don't have to have that if you're like in a motorcycle race, but it does require that they have to stay.
How do we feel about that?
Yeah, we did it last year.
So why don't you put that in, Damien?
And then Damien, what I don't know about your language is how this impacts inspections.
So, this doesn't amend the inspection section. It amends the, vehicle conditions. I don't know if the inspection manual has specific provisions related to the motorcycle exhausts. Right now, there are other vehicle conditions such as tinting of passenger and driver side windows.
Yeah.
That are advisory and not a failure at inspections. So I don't know if this would be treated the same, that an inspection station would advise you that your muffler is not compliant, or whether it would be a failure. I just don't know about that. I know the language leading into this section that vehicle parts shall be in good condition and
Right.
or a vehicle shall be in good condition and properly equipped is used as the basis for much of the language in the inspection manual.
Here's my proposal that we consider this language that Damien wrote it to be added to the condition of the vehicle. And then we also added to the list of the items that the DMV is going to consider in their amendments for the manual.
Yeah, I mean, the other option without having to add it to the manual would be, sorry, let me just pull up the language here. Is just to say a motorcycle that is not equipped as provided pursuant to this subdivision, shall not pass inspection pursuant to section 1222 of this title, which is the next section. And that would be what that would do if you put it into.
But I thought that's what we did, but that's not what we did with S66. We just said this.
With S66, there was a lot more language in there,
Motorcycle.
and I just took the language out of that.
I would be supportive of that. I mean, and we can just see what the House does. It's a committee. Okay.
I'm sure that they will have opinions.
Yeah, we can. So
Yeah, with S66 as it passed this body,
it's just advisory. I mean, because it's hard if it's. I don't know if they'll know if it's a good mechanic.
yeah, what I actually forgot to add into that is that we did have language that says a motorcycle that does not meet requirements of that subdivision shall not pass inspection.
Yeah.
And I can simply add that in if that's the will of the committee, so. Yeah. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, unless you want to talk about window tinting.
Do you want to bring it up? I think
Well, I'm not gonna advocate that we make it fail inspection, but I don't know if there's. I guess I'll just bring it up so DMV can, when they're looking at amendments, is there something that can be done to make the notice that's given? So right now, if somebody comes in with a vehicle, they have complete mirrored, blacked out windows. As long as it's not on the front windshield, it'll pass inspection. And then in the 3-page printout, it'll say in there that this is advisable that they get the tint fixed or whatever. It says that it failed, but it doesn't fail inspection. I thought it'd be better if they got like a separate note or said something like, you're driving an illegal vehicle and you could get fined.
Okay, there's also that in the conversations that we had with, DMV is, the fine is slightly over $100. And the fine is so small that most of these people ignore it. So the question will be, and because I don't want to do a fine in this bill, but the question will be in relationship to the T-bill, if you added a line in someplace, it increased the fine. And, you know, because at this point, if we add a fine, this bill ends up probably going to judiciary, probably going to finance on that. So, yeah, at this last minute, but there clearly will probably be an amendment someplace on going forward as we get to increase.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution.
Okay.
You know, at $100, people are going, and we know that law enforcement has not been fast to hand out tickets.
Yeah. Maybe we could send them email saying, look out for this one. Next
So,
time you're.
There's only,
Well,
here's the window tinting tickets. So it did increase since COVID, but it's still only 260 tickets a year, which is pretty small considering how many games.
so what would you like to do anything?
No, I'm not gonna propose we amend this bill with this, so it's more just this statement, and then hope that when we get the T-bill, we can talk about the
We're gonna,
increase the
we're
fund.
gonna look for you to have some sort of amendment someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we take what's a safe number, Damien? A half an hour, 20 minutes? Can you be ready by quarter of?
Yeah, I think I've drafted everything here, so I can send it to the editors now and we can jump into 211 if you want. I wouldn't mind a 10-minute break.
We're gonna take a break,
All right.
and then, so how long a break should we take?
Do you want to go right into 211? I can,
We can do that if you want, we can go right to 211.
sure, why don't we do that after the break? I'm good to go. I'm gonna.
Why don't we take 20 minutes and 20 of, we'll be back here and we'll take up to 11. And hopefully before noon time, we have a clean draft,
Wait, are we back at 10:35 or are we back at 10:50?
20 minutes out.
Yeah.
10:40. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay,